What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Leveled Up Life podcast. My name is Branamier, Courtney, as always, here with McClain, here to help you level up your life in all the areas that matter the most, whether that's your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, or your franchise. We appreciate you for leaning in, for listening up. Do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you're learning. What's the takeaways? Maybe you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, wherever you're listening from, man. We appreciate you, and it helps us so much. So get this word out if this podcast has been helping you.
Good to be back on, my man.
Let's do it. So 3 ways to level up your life, 3 ways to unlocking success, 3 ways to get to the next step, the next journey. We want to help you with that. If you're like, hey man, life is good right now, but it's not great. I want to help. I need help getting to the next level. Well, hey, you're in the right place. And so we got some good stuff for you. So again, lean in. Paul, you just got back from a big conference, last week?
Yeah, and the crazy thing about that is this. So to the point of like putting together a regimen and actually having a personal growth plan. So the one tip I tell everybody on here, one of the most valuable things I've ever done is to put together a personal growth plan. So to be very intentional with my growth, and that included making sure I had conferences on my schedule. I called you in January and I was going through and building my year, and it's like, man, I know if I'm not growing, dude, the other version of myself I don't like.
Yeah.
I'm not happy. I don't wake up in the morning I want to be progressing. And I feel like fulfillment and happiness is really tied to when you're developing and when you're donating, or when you're giving and you're growing, right? And you can't give out of lack. And so I was like, bro, what conferences do you want to go to? We went to Life Surge together.
Yep.
And like, let's go here. And dude, that was powerful, right?
Absolutely.
And then I just got back from another convention in Vegas, and man, you get around people that have reached the success in different areas of the life that you desire, and what they could do is say, step here, don't step here, do this, don't do that. And I feel like when you have somebody that can give you their hindsight and you could pick it up as now your foresight, man, that's everything.
100%.
Building businesses and stuff, like, dude, there's a lot of big errors that I made that cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if I could say, hey, don't make that error. Like, I've been there. I mean, then you just saved all that. And that's the same thing as I went to this event. There was a lot of people, Brand, that they had exited like 9-figure businesses. Some of them had done like 3 exits in 9-figure, which is like 100 million plus, right?
That's crazy.
And then I sat there and I said, what are some commonalities that I'm hearing from a lot of these different people in the business world that I've seen success? It was really real estate focused, because my desire is to help develop that skill set, right? And my ability, because ability is going to unlock potential. And so I'm like, what are the commonalities that I could leave and duplicate?
Yeah.
Because like, dude, I'm not prideful at all when it comes to that stuff. Like, dude, like if you're like killing it, I'm like, what do you wear? Like, what boxers do you wear? I'll wear you wear Hanes, bro. I'll wear Hanes, man. Like, I don't leave nothing to chance, bro. And so one of the commonalities that we let's start with and unpack, because I want to get your opinion and advice, and let's bounce some stuff off, is personal growth. Like, everybody there really talked about whether that was having somebody that was a mentor, a coach, maybe that was different events that they had attended, but they had invested quite a bit into their education and development. So kind of talk about like how that's helped you and the progression of the results, because it's like people will see the results, but they don't see the dedication to getting better every day and the education that comes with getting better. So kind of talk about like, what does that look like?
I think, so most of us, we go to school, and then once we're done with school, we either go into college and get a 4-year, or we start working. And that's our concept of education, right? Yep. And we're like, once I can stop learning and start living, then I'm done with the school stuff. I'm done with the homework, right? Yep. But it's just a bad way to look at education. It's just a bad lens to see learning through. And what I've learned, and what many of you are probably learning now that you've gotten a little bit older, a little bit wiser, is you can never stop learning. Because once you stop learning, once you start being intentional about bringing in new information, man, that's when you start dying. That's when you get passed up, right? And you're going, what am I missing that everyone else isn't? why does everyone else seem to be growing and seem to be expanding and their life is flourishing? Well, it's probably because without you even knowing it, man, they're making these small or maybe large investments into their education, whether it's through podcasts like this, whether it's conferences, whether it's books, whether it's actual coaching. Like, they're getting this information from other people who are so far ahead of them. And what I've learned to be true is that sometimes it's hard to invest because you don't always necessarily see the result right away. But if you make the proper investments over, like, consistently, then all the information that you're taking in, it comes out of your life without you even knowing it. So, like, for me, for example, I went to college, amazing. I got a business degree, but I couldn't tell you like 3 things that I learned in school, right? But like, without me even knowing it, the education that was being poured into me throughout that whole entire time, like, trained my thoughts on how to like run a business. And it wasn't necessarily like 1 or 2 key takeaways, but just getting around the right environments allowed me to then start thinking a different way, right? So now that I didn't go to Bible school, right? But I'm a pastor. So how did that happen? Well, I educated myself. I got around people who are further ahead of me. I took, not necessarily college courses, but now I've been around it so long. I've made the investment into my education for so long. I got different courses and different programs that I've gone through for so many different years. So I've been a student of the game for a long time. And I think people just don't want to be a student anymore. Like, people just want to teach without actually learning, or they just want the result without actually the investment.
Dude, I remember golfing with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, what are you listening to? And you were doing a whole study on, I think, the book of Acts or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, to me, when I see that, dude, it's like validation of like, and it makes me excited.
Right.
So I remember, kind of learning a lot about like personal growth, and you start reading books and stuff, and you're like, okay, there's commonalities to successful people. Like, success leaves clues, and dude, I'm looking for the clues, and once I find it, man, I'm going to become obsessed with that. And I remember we were golfing, and you were listening to, like a whole seminary message on that study, and like, to me, I was like, dude, that's just proof of why there's so much fruit. And I feel like, God's going to give you what you can manage, right? It's like the story of the guys with the talents, right? And they got so many. Well, they were given it based off of their ability. Right. And so the guy that only got 1, his ability wasn't as good as the guy that got more. Right. And then their action, what they did with that, was evident in that, right? Yeah. And so my whole goal was like, man, how can I increase my ability in getting better, right? Yeah. And I think that for anybody on here, no matter what you're in, you've got different roles and goals, right? Yeah. So if you're a parent, what's the education? What's the growth plan of being a parent? If you're running a business, or maybe you're an employee right now and you desire to run a business. Like, we have some entrepreneurs, some women downstairs that are therapists that started their business here at the level of building about a year ago. Well, they were employees until they stepped out and became business owners. So if that's you and you're like, man, I'm an employee now, but I desire to be a business. Or maybe you're like, I'm working this job and I'm not passionate, and I'm passionate about this, and that there's a business, there's a problem that you can solve with that business. Well, man, start studying that. Yeah. Start being so studious with that, where it's like you're consumed, where it's what you think about day and night.
What should someone do? Like, is it just a time investment? Is it a financial investment? Like, what's the commonalities that you see that these ultra successful people making? Like, are they buying coaching programs? Are they reading a million books? I'll be honest, I'm not a big book reader, right? Yeah. I got a book. You got a bookcase full of books. Like, I do too, but I haven't read half of them.
Well, the Bible.
I stole half your books just to put them on my shelf, but I read the Bible. You know what I mean?
Well, all these books are produced from 100%. It. They just kind of hit it from a different level.
So what is it like? What do you see most people investing in? Is it like books? Is it education? Is it coaching?
Like, I think it's all of it, dude.
Yeah,
it's all of the above. So like, I think that you want to find somebody that you can kind of connect well with, right? Yeah. So their style and whatever, and then you're like, okay, they're having really success.
That's key, is the style for me.
For anybody,
100%.
Like, I'll give you an example. Like in sales, when I got into sales at 19, dude, I knew that was going to be the very thing that would help me provide for my family, and that was going to allow me to start getting ahead, because I was 19, flat broke, new baby, struggling, didn't know how to be a husband, didn't know how to be a dad, didn't know how to be I didn't know how to be none of those things, and I was all of those things. Yeah. And so, at that point in time, I was like, all right, I have to get this down. And so in my car ride, no matter when I was driving, this is back where there was MP3s. There was no podcast. It was like me slapping in the CD. But dude, I every minute that I had that was free and available, I was spent just listening to different people that I was like, I connect with them. They're the way the art of this sell, their psychology, their approach. It's not pushy. It's more like, I'm not selling, I'm serving you. And that whole approach was like, I can get with that. I can get passionate about my product, and then help the client because I want to serve them, not about me making a sale. And so I connected with a couple people that were really good, and then I studied it, dude. And then I read books about it, and it was nonstop until a point where I was able to go out there and become one of the top sales producers and trainers because not of my skill set or gift set. It was simply because of my discipline to a personal growth plan. And same thing, you know, like when I had no money, I was spending $20,000 on John Maxwell events in different courses in different, I mean, if you look at how many courses I've purchased and things I've gone
well now
through,
today,
you know,
I mean, everything's free, like everything's on YouTube, you know, but you got to make, and sometimes, because I ask you that because sometimes people are like, I have no money to invest. I can't spend $20,000 to go to a conference or be a part, but like you can invest your time. Like you could be intentional with that. Like what are you investing right now into your education, man? All these successful people, you talk about people that exit 9-figure companies, that seems so far out for many of us, right? But it's like, man, if that's a commonality amongst all these successful people, that they're investing into their personal growth, then maybe, just maybe, we should be doing the same thing, right? Whether it's books, education, courses, YouTube videos, like most of it's free. Like we talked about, you know, we were at one point talking about like coaching program, putting that stuff together, and you showed me, I think it was Hermosi had his whole like, you know, back end office, but that's like $10 a month. It's like less than Netflix. You can have access to, you know, these multimillionaires who are showing you how to not just run businesses, but how to be a good human, you know? And so,
well, you know, the one thing I would say too, Brian, is like, you know, when you start like betting on yourself, then that changes everything. And so like when I was investing into these different conferences and seminars, man, it would have been easy to say like, dude, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why don't you try to save for your first house, or why don't you, but I just knew that like that's going to be the fast track. If I can spend $20,000 or $10,000 or $5,000, whatever the event was, and that would give me the ability to get there 2 years quicker, man, there's successes in speed. And so now I'm able to make an extra $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. It's an investment. I'd spend, you say, Paul, give me, you know, $1,000 and in a week I'll give you 10. It's like, well, how many times can we do it, bro? Like, is it unlimited? Is it 5, 10? And so I think that, you know, for somebody on here, maybe, you know, you've not bet on yourself and you've used that as an excuse. Like, I just can't afford it. No, you can't afford not to. You know, if you're in a spot where you're just trying to get to these next levels and it's tough and tight, like you can't afford not to. And the moment you say that, you're saying, man, I bet on myself. And once you bet on yourself, man, you're going to typically start seeing more victories than you would see.
That's really good.
If you're waiting on yourself.
Yeah. And I just want to encourage, like, we're not just talking about, you know, financial success as far as personally growing. Like, you got to invest into your marriage. Like, you got to invest into your kids. Like, there's education stuff on how to be a better parent, how to be a better husband. Like, we have a program at our church called Grace Marriage. You know, it starts out, you know, there's 150 couples there, but by week 6, there's 19, right? It's because people lack the discipline to fully devote themselves to educating themselves on how to be a better spouse. And it's unfortunate, but that's the reality that we live in. But if you could just stick to it, if you could just commit yourself to, I'm gonna learn this concept. I'm gonna learn these strategies. I'm gonna dive in deep, and I'm gonna educate myself based on other people who are further ahead that I look up to, that I can relate to, because I want the results that they have. But it starts with making a commitment to self-education, to personal growth. So,
well, you know, it's kind of like, Brian, think about this. Like, it's not just, it's a mechanics, but the mindset too, right? So like, you'll learn different strategies. Like, you know, I remember reading my a book on parenting. I'm trying to remember what it is. I'll put it in the description. But it was a book that talked about how to listen to your kids. And I remember reading it, and it gave me a strategy of what that looked like, right? And I was like, this is great. But at the end of the day, the mindset and me controlling my emotions and the way I think is even more important, because I can know the strategy, but in that that moment where my kid's like disrespectful or whatever, like it's tough.
Right.
Like for instance, like who on here, if I ask, you know, an honest question, be direct, but like who knows the fundamental strategy of losing weight?
Right.
Like everybody. Like you eat, you put less food in your mouth and you work out. Like that's a fundamental strategy. But how many have got the perfect body? Like, dude, I'm so happy. Right, so it's not strategy.
That's good.
It's mindset. It's a mindset thing. And so I think that's a big thing when you start to, you know, your thought process that you're at right now. I know for me, man, I got all kinds of areas of growth with my marriage, my being a parent, business, you know, faith. Like I want to develop. And my thought process I've got now is not the thought process I'm going to need to reach a new level. That new level is going to come after my new thought process comes.
That's good.
And so I got to put myself in a room where I'm exposed. You know, that's why I love having conversations with you, Brand, and we get just to talk about, you know, God, the Word, and then how that is applicable in different areas. Because when I leave, I start to see things differently. I mean, think about how many times we've had a conversation. I'm like, dude, that's so good because you'll give me a different, viewpoint on like God's sovereignty and our free will. We talked about this on vacation, and I'm like, dude, I didn't see it like that. And now because I see it differently, I can never not see it again. Right. And that was the second thing I want to unpack is like this law of exposure. Most of them spoke about talking about like being exposed to different levels of success and different ways to see things and different vantage points. Kind of talk about like, you know, how that's
it's about getting in the room. It's about getting around the right people. It's about getting around people who are further ahead than you. I mean, if you're constantly hanging out with people that are at your level or below you, then that's exactly where you're going to stay. And so it's almost like a life hack. It's like if I can get around someone who's 10 years ahead of me in any area of life, then just by exposure alone, you know, I'm going to increase my ability to get there. And so for me, I mean, that's been the key to most all my success, whether it would be, you know, in the church world or as a dad or whatever it is, man. How could I get around people who are just so much further than me? I'm trying to think about biblically, right? Like getting in the room, how important that is. I think about the upper room, right? I think about when Jesus had his 12 disciples in the room, and kind of instituted a new covenant. Like he broke bread with them. How like what would you do to get in that room? You know what I mean? Before or after.
It's good.
When Jesus went to heaven, like after he was crucified, he told the disciples, don't go anywhere. Like wait for the gift of the Father, wait till the Holy Spirit comes. What'd they do? They went and got in the room. Like they went and got in the upper room, 120 of them, and they fasted and they prayed and they waited until the Holy Spirit came, and out of the room was birthed the church. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think about how important it is to and it's not the room, it's not the walls, it's the people, right? So how important it is to get around the right people. Man, what would you pay to get in the room? What would you pay to be a fly on the wall in some of these rooms? And so what are some rooms that maybe you have to get into? Maybe it's your neighbors that you see that have an extremely successful marriage, and from the outside it looks amazing. Well, maybe you should go talk to them and see how, man, every time I see you with your kids, you seem to be so happy and joy-filled, and you got nice cars, you got nice things. Like, go talk to them. See if you can get in the room. It's the law of exposure. Yeah. Because once you see what a better life can be, you can't unsee it. I remember my dad told me a story one time because he grew up in Barstow, and he's like, his dad was a police officer. His mom was a nurse, and so they had that middle class family, you know. But he's like, we didn't go on vacations. We didn't leave Barstow really. It was like a treat to go to Victorville. But he's like, I remember when I was 18, one of my friends went to Huntington Beach. He's like, so I went with him, and he's like, I didn't know, like there was this whole other world an hour and a half away.
That's funny.
I had no idea like people live this way. It was a whole new concept to me. And so he's like, I went back to Barstow. I told my parents I'm going to college in Huntington Beach, and that's what he did. He went to college in Huntington Beach, and he was exposed to a whole new mindset, a whole new way of living. And like 3 years later, he started a security company, like sold it, and just like his whole journey started. But it's like just getting around a new way of thinking, new way of living. And it's crazy because most of us don't even know that I think about like when we go on vacations and we go stay at nice hotels, like we cannot take the kids to nice hotels now. Like we messed them up. You know what I mean?
Messed up in a good way.
Yeah, messed up in a good way, because now their expectation of life is just so much. It's great.
Yeah.
You know, it's really good. So the law of exposure, getting around the right people.
Hey, the funny thing is, dude, I have the same story. Like I grew up in Hesperia.
Yeah.
Right. My dad was a plumber. And I mean, I was born down the road in Apple Valley.
Yeah.
And so I remember being like 17 years old, and one of my buddies at school was like, "Hey, we're going to go to Spring Valley Lake." I'm like, "What is that?"
Right.
There's a lake. I'm like, "There's a lake where?" He's like, "Dude, a mile away." Dude, I grew up 2 miles away from a huge lake where you could go wakeboarding, sea doing, like have
houses
some
on
fun.
the water.
Houses on the water. Dude, I remember I went there, and it was like 2 miles away from where I was raised and lived for 17 years, and I didn't even know it was there. And I'm like, dude, this is incredible. And then one of my goals was like, man, I'm going to get on the lake, you know? And, like 8 years ago, we were blessed enough to buy a house on the lake. Now it's a vacation home, and we go there when we want to use it. But it's funny how, like, it's like if you ever fly private on a private jet, you can't ever fly Spirit again. Yeah, you might be able to go back to.
I wouldn't know about that, Paul. But
you can't fly Spirit ever again, right? And but there's just things that you want to be exposed to, so you start looking at everything differently. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I mean, I just think that it's important also to understand that, expose yourself to different emotions. For me, it's like if I can find emotions of bliss and happiness and gratitude,
that's good.
Well, then I'm gonna be more likely and inclined to go out there and find different things or create different situations or experiences or moments or relationships that are going to produce more of that emotion. And I think that's one of the things that will really help get away from maybe something that you feel like, I just feel like this feeling of anxiety or not being good enough or stress or anger or frustration or guilt or shame. It just seems so familiar because it's just what you live with every single day. Yeah. And as you get exposed to newer emotions and people that can kind of give you different thoughts that are tied to different emotions, well, then all of a sudden, like, it's hard to unsee that. Yeah. You start seeing things and be like, wow, maybe I'm not that. Maybe I can step out of that,
right? That's really good.
And live a different life that's full of emotions. Because I think that, like, what you focus on is what you start to feel. And what you feel is your life. So if I'm focused on mostly negative things or out of my control, and I'm exposing myself to that consistently, well, that's going to be my life. Yeah. But if I can start exposing myself and really kind of slowing down and saying, why do I feel this way? Right. And what rooms can I get into? It's almost like, how many stories do you have, Brand, where somebody goes to church for the first time, they get in their room, they get in the building, and they're around people that are faith-filled, right? Mm-hmm. They hear a word from God that, is sharper than any double-edged sword, that when it goes out, it doesn't come back void. And now all of a sudden they leave and, like, they can't unsee that. Right. I remember for me, like, really having that encounter with Christ and accepting him into my heart and starting to say, like, wow, I'm gonna follow him. Like, I had gone out and had success in a lot of different areas from a world standpoint, but the moment that I felt that void being filled in, man, I could never not have that. Right. And so every time I kind of get off and I'm not, like, in my word or not praying and really kind of feeding my faith and developing that relationship with God, I feel that void. Right. And now, because I've been exposed to it, I'm aware of it. It's like, dude, I'm now I know that nothing else. I'm not going to start chasing.
Nothing else can fill you.
Yeah, I'm not going to start chasing, like, another title or position, because I know now that I've been exposed that it's only God that can fill that void. Then I'm like, okay, I feel this way, so what do I need to do? I don't need to go work harder or try to work smarter. I'm feeling this way because I've not been in my word. I've not been in prayer. And let me get back to that, because I know that that's been the void. That's been the only thing really that fills it,
I mean, every week I people come into the church or, talk to people within the church, and they're like, man, I didn't know, I could be around a group of people who were encouraging, who were motivating, who, weren't pouting and complaining about everything. I was just so used to, regular life. I didn't know this was out there. And it's like, well, it's the joy of the Lord. That's our strength, And so that's why people every single week come in. It's like they're exposed to a whole new world. They're exposed to the real love of God, not rules and religion, right? And again, it just goes back to the power of exposure, of getting around the right people, of opening up your mind, of seeing things in a new light. I mean.
Well, dude, so as far as like, it's like those would be the two things I think that for anybody on here, I know as I was at that event and, and I went to the event really to kind of learn some strategies, right? Like I've built a 7-figure business in real estate and I'm trying to figure out how to take it to another level.
Quietly you have, which is crazy.
Well, it was it's secondary to the financial services, but now it's like, man, I want to kind of do more in that area. And I know that I'm not going to fall over the place. Like I've learned from the prior business that that's not the way to do it. And so, but as I'm sitting there, man, like, again, like what you realize is that they did go through strategy, but everything was on mindset.
Yep.
Because
mindset,
80% is mindset.
Yep.
You know, most people kind of know how to, you've been like exposed, you've had a glimpse of like what it looks like to be that next level version spouse, right? You've had a glimpse of what it looks like to be that next level version parent, business owner. You've had a glimpse of what it looks like to be, a little bit more fit and how you feel when you eat a little bit better and you work out a little bit more. But man, is it so easy, I know for me, dude, to go back to default and be in the knowing but not in the doing.
Right.
And it's only in the doing that we actually start to really kind of identify the true knowing, and then it becomes known again because it's a part of who we are. But like so what they talked a lot about was like, okay, if you want to go to a next level, it's not as much as knowing like who you currently are now, yes, and having exposure and building awareness, having some strategy, yes, but it's also about like, what do we need to let go of? Like what's kind of holding your back? I remember this crazy guy that, when I got in financial services, he had success and he'd always talk about, dude, what monkey's on your back? Like what's holding you back? You know? And the whole thing is like, sometimes we don't slow down enough and focus on, maybe we just need to delete some things.
That's good.
Remove some things. You did a great message on demo day. I remember you had the hard hat on, bro, and you're talking about like, yes, we want to build a great life.
Right.
But we need to demolish some things as well.
Absolutely.
That was a long time ago.
I
don't know how I thought about that right now. It was because of hard hat.
Yeah.
It was the hard hat. But it's like we got to demolish some of these generational things and maybe some things we've picked up from our parents, upbringing, experiences.
It's really good.
I mean, what do you kind of
it's like
all that?
It's like trying to remodel a house or redecorate the house, and you have all your old junk in there, and you're trying to put up new walls and new furniture, but you got the old broken walls and the old tile fixtures and everything is in there. And it's like, okay, you're going to build new stuff, but it's never going to look right because you still got all your old stuff that's holding you back, that's actually not increasing any value because all the old stuff's still in there, bringing the value back down. And so demo day, like you got to demolish some things in your life. Maybe, like you mentioned it, maybe it's something from your parents. And I don't want to say generational curses necessarily, but generational behaviors or generational thoughts or generational habits that just pass down from your grandparents to your parents. And then without you even knowing it or recognizing it, man, you all of a sudden talk the same way, think the same way, respond the same way. And that same way will never get you to the new way. And so you got to, number one, recognize it. And then you got to demolish, like the strongholds we talked about, I think in the second, third podcast, like you got to demolish some of these old ways. So you got to identify it. You got to expose it, and then you got to bring light to it. I'm trying to think like good examples for me. What could have that been? I remember when we first got married, right? So me and Ray, I've been married almost, I might mess this up.
She's gonna watch
mess this up, bro.
Dude. This is where everything went. This is where you level down.
Yeah. I think 11 years.
11 years.
11 years this July.
How old is Bronx?
He's 10. Don't judge. Yeah.
I ain't judging you, bro.
He's almost.
I'm wearing the same shoes as you in this situation, dude. I'm high fiving you, man. Yeah. That's
always a good way to find out. That's how old is Bronx. So this July will be 11 years. But I remember when we first got married. So I married Mariah, you married Natasha, their sister. So they had obviously the same upbringing, and their parents are still married to this day, served in the church, love each other, like amazing relationship. Obviously they got their own things, but, from a holistic point of view, like everything that you'd want in a parent, right? That was their exposure. It was almost the opposite. My parents had a great marriage when I was a kid, but that got a divorce when I was 11. Then my dad went on and got remarried, had kids, my mom, so a very different way of looking at marriage. So when the two become one, so when I married Mariah, it's like, man, I had to, if I ever wanted a successful marriage and healthy children and healthy relationships, I had to let go of some things that I had been exposed to, you know, some, and without me even knowing, I was acting like a full of pride.
You'll never know.
You never know until it's
subconscious.
Like, it's subconscious. It's ingrained in you because that's all you see, you know, and you have to demolish some of those old, and that's not overnight, right? It's something that takes a long time, but you have to identify it, and you have to really challenge yourself and do the homework and recognize and not try to hold it all in. So for me, it was like ego. For me, it was pride. For me, it was like, I'm always right. For me, it was, I'm older, I'm wiser, I've done it, you know, I've been around this earth longer than you have. But if you're ever going to grow, if you're ever going to level up, like you gotta demolish those thought patterns. You gotta demolish those generational curses or generational behaviors. And so I think for anyone out there, maybe it's not just a marriage thing, maybe it's a financial thing. Maybe, you know, your parents have struggled financially for a long time, and now you see yourself in the same lifestyle, and it's just like, it's repeating without you even knowing it. Now your kids are getting older and they're seeing the same thing. Well, you gotta identify what that is, and you gotta expose that and bring some new life to it, bring some new light to it, or it's just gonna continue over and over, generation after generation. And so I think that's what kind of a lot of the successful people at this conference were referring to is man, you gotta be the one that steps out. You gotta be the one that breaks the habit, breaks the chain. And oftentimes that it takes courage, it takes boldness, it takes like, because you become the one that takes all the arrows. You become the different one now. You become the one that goes, oh, you think you're better than us? Oh, all of a sudden you go to church. All of a sudden, you're listening to podcasts. Who? Oh, you don't drink no more. Who do you think you are? And so it shines this new light on you. But if something's going to change, like, you got to step out. So
and it's just one decision.
Put
down the bottle and pick up a dumbbell.
That's right.
You know,
come on, Wyatt.
Today we're gonna really kind of dive into some practical things of like, how do you build a vision that, dude, it just makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning and go after something.
Well, without a vision, man, it's hard to get out of bed. Let me just say that.
That's right.
You ever wake up in the morning, stub your toe, you're like, I'm getting right back in bed because I ain't got nothing to live for. It's too cold. It's raining outside. It's dark. Yep. You know, time hasn't changed yet. But if you got a vision, man, you're jumping out of bed before the alarm goes off. Yesterday, it's funny say that. I was I don't know what it was, man. I went to bed kind of late and I was up at like 3:50 in the morning. I was just fired up about life, man. I got up, did some work on the computer, you know, and then you tell Mariah when she gets up at like 6:30, I was like, I've been up for 2 hours. She's like, you liar.
Right.
You know, no, I'm like, I'm telling you, footage. I've prayed over you for the last 2 hours. You know, I've been spending time with God just because I got a vision for my life, man. A vision for where God's taking me personally, taking the church, taking the business. And so, man, that's our heart for you, is that you would wake up just fired up, ready to go after the thing that God's put on your heart. And so we want to help you clarify, like, man, what is a vision? If you don't have a vision for your life, for your family, for your future, really, like, what does that look like? What are practical ways to do that? So I don't know, maybe talk about what's the significance of a vision. Why is it important? Why should we have a vision? Why not just go through life just, you know, paying bills and, you know.
Well, man, I think that, like, dude, for me, vision is it's like the picture of hope, right? Like, hope is what gets us going. Like, hope in the past is regret. So I think a lot of people at times, and I've had these seasons where you're just so focused on the past that, you know, that's really regret is hope in the past. Hope in the present is accomplishment. You've already accomplished it, right? Like, if I'm like, one day I hope I get married. Well, if you're married, you're not hoping for that one day. One day I hope I build a big business. So if you're living in that big business, that's not what you're hoping for anymore. So you've got to get a new vision. Yep. And so hope's only something that's out there in the future. And what I know to be true, and I'll kind of paint the picture, like, we don't know the difference between what we visualize and what we experience, right? And I'll give you an example. Like, it was probably a couple years back. I was sleeping, right? And my wife, she'll stay up a little later watching like the last bit of that Netflix show or what have you. And I'm like, I'm getting to bed because I got to wake up earlier than she does. And so I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden she's kicking me, and, you know, and I'm like, what the heck? So I wake up and she's laughing. I'm like, what are you laughing at? She's like, you're like crying like a little baby. She's like, you're making all these weird noises. And I'm like, who are you talking to? She's like, I'm talking to my sister. So her and Mariah were dying laughing about this. Like, they're both awake. And what I realized is that, like, I was like experiencing in my mind this nightmare.
Yeah.
It wasn't happening. Like, I woke up and I was fine.
Right.
But my body didn't know the difference between what was like I was experiencing what I visualized, and it's no different if you go to a movie and you're watching these actors, actresses. It's all fake,
Right.
but you can get some emotion tied to it. And so visualization, it's so impactful because what it does is it gets your body and your mind really kind of going after something that you've not yet actualized. And so I think like vision, man, it's such a big deal because it really helps you choose your daily routines is based off of vision.
Yeah. Have you ever woke up and Natasha's mad at you?
I'm sure I have.
Like she had a bad dream about you, like you did something wrong in her dream, and she just mad at you for like the first 30 minutes of your day. Right? That's happens to me about every other week. I'm like, Mariah, you gotta stop watching certain movies, stop watching certain shows. Like I didn't do that. Don't put that man's sin on me. You know what I mean? Like I didn't do nothing to you.
But it happens.
It happens, yeah.
Visualization is such a big deal. So guys, we want to kind of unpack this. What about you, Brand? What do you think like is like the significance of vision? Because I think we want to lay the groundwork so you're not like, I've heard about vision. Is it that important? No, this is everything.
Yeah, I think the vision is like the destination, right? It's like where we're going. It's the picture of what could be, and really it's a picture of what should be. And so if you close your eyes, like that's your vision. Like who are you in that future version of yourself? Like close your eyes, like because sight is what you can see with your eyes open, but vision is what you see with your eyes closed, right? So
that's good.
So where are you going? If you can't close your eyes and picture your life in a different place, well then you got no vision. And so for me, it's like, man, who am I as a dad? Like what's the best version of me? Who is God calling me to be as a dad, as a husband, as a pastor, as a friend? Like there's all these future versions of me, and we're all different, right? We all have a different vision for our life, but it's just this, I wouldn't say it's like a goal, but it's just like a picture of your life that I think God's placed in your heart of what you should be, right? And it's just this constant pursuit of living up to the purpose on your life. And so that's really it for me. It's like a clear, the vision gives you like a clear direction and purpose of where your life is headed.
Yeah.
So a vision allows you to, get past the pain going on. A vision allows you to overcome circumstances. A vision allows you to wake up early and go to bed late. A vision allows you to not give up when it feels like you should give up. Like you have to have a vision to keep pushing forward. Because if you don't have a vision for where you could be and where you should be, then life's hard. Life throws, things at you that hurt, that are painful, that are hard to overcome. But man, if you got a vision, that's the thing that keeps you going, right?
And I think that's one of those things, Brand, that like that's like our superpower, right?
Yeah.
As far as how we were created. Like we were created to create. We were imagined to imagine. If we were created in his image, God's a creator of everything. And so that's our gift. It's like, what is that scripture about? Like, what are you worrying about? Like the birds don't even worry.
Yeah.
And it's like the birds they just do bird things.
Yeah.
Like a silkworm just creates silk. It doesn't wake up and think like, today I'm going to create like a cotton poly blend.
Right.
It just does what it does.
Right.
And I think that a lot of times when we're feeling anxious or overwhelmed or not just fulfilled, like when we're not feeling like we're being moved by purpose, it's because we're not operating the way we were created to operate, which is to create. And the creation of today is based off of a vision of where I'm going tomorrow. And so I think vision is such a crucial thing because it builds faith. Like scripture says, faith is having confidence in what you hope for, assurance on what you do not have. So what you do not see. So if I'm building faith by my vision, right, it's because every time I see it in my mind, I'm starting to become more confident that it's going to become my reality. It's starting to become more real. I'm starting to feel it, embody it, and now my feet are going to go to work finding evidence to support that verdict or that picture that I've so clearly held on to, that I've been ruminating on day in and day out. And so in essence, that vision helps you build your faith because now I got more confidence in what I hope for, which is that picture, right?
That's really good.
And so let's talk about, dude, like these fundamental concepts of building a vision, because a vision needs to have some essential things a part of it.
Yeah.
So point one, what would be the first thing?
The vision has to be vivid, right? It has to be clear. I remember when I was in college, maybe this might date me or maybe you could relate. I was living in a dorm room with a roommate and we didn't have TV. And it was just like normal. I didn't even think anything different. But I remember a couple of people down the hall had TV and we'd always like go there and watch theirs or whatever. And so I remember I came home one weekend and I took my TV from my house and then took it back to the dorm room. And then I remember it was like a Sunday night. I got in the room. I went to go plug it in and I realized I don't got cable. Like my whole life, like parents pay for all that stuff. I didn't even think anything of it. And so I was like, well, dude, I don't have any channels. So I went to Walmart and I bought the antennas. Remember those bunny ears? So because I was like, dude, I ain't paying for DirecTV or whatever.
Dude,
whatever
that
it was
was
at the time.
when you were in college. That was going on still.
Wow. 100%. So I went and got bunny ears and I sat them on top of my TV in my dorm room, and I had like 3 channels. I had 2 news channels and I had 1 weather channel. And I loved the news channels, right? I was just like, I was watching.
What you had?
I was watching Good Morning America all the time. But my point is, it wasn't that clear. Like it was antennas, right? So you'd have to move them around and it'd be fuzzy and it'd go in and out and you'd miss half the segment or whatever it was. So your vision ain't supposed to be fuzzy. Right. It's supposed to be vivid. It's supposed to be clear. It's supposed to be specific. And but unfortunately, most people's vision of their future is like them living lives with antennas on, not knowing that there's DirecTV, not knowing that there's YouTube TV, not knowing that there's many more, clear pictures of what could be. So you got to spend time going, hey, what should my life look like? Like, man, what can my family be? Because the truth is we live like in our reality, in our present, and sometimes it's hard to see past the present moment.
It's good.
Right? Because it's like, man, I can't ever picture a healthy marriage. My marriage has been bad for the last 20 years. I can't ever picture, having money to give away. I barely make it every single month. How could I possibly see that? Well, you got to spend time for us, man. Like you got to spend time with the Lord, like seeking, like, God, what do you have for me? This can't be it. So you got to be clear with the vision. Like, man, this is where I see my family living. This is the car I see myself driving. This is the neighborhood. This is the school my kids go to. This is the business I have. And the clearer you can be with your vision, the more likely you are to achieve it. Yeah. Right. But the more vague you are, which is another V, right? Don't be vague with your vision. You're not likely to do it. A vague vision is going to give you a vague result, but a specific, a clear, a vivid vision will give you that clear result. So that's what I would encourage you, man. Make it plain, like write it down, make it clear and vivid. What exactly is a life that you feel like you could and should be living?
That's good, man. That's so good. And I think that it gets me thinking about this story I read a while back, and it was about this Olympic team. They had won the gold medal, right? And so they were interviewed after they'd won the gold medal, and they said, like, what was your preparation? What did it look like? And so they basically told the interviewer, they said, our whole life when we were kids, we would go through this rehearsal, this vision. Like we would actually like say, now coming out, and they would announce each other's names, right? Dude. And they would imagine and envision even like the specificity of like we were going against China in the Olympics, and like we played this out over and over and over and over again. So she's like, were you nervous? And they're like, no, we just basically went out and did what we'd already seen come to pass in our mind over and over and over again. So it was almost like second nature.
Yeah.
And I think that story really just says like, hey, that's what we need to be doing. Like it's like that purposeful pause, right? You think about like COVID, it was like the great like world pause where everybody kind of paused and was just like, yeah, time to just kind of like get outside of what was just your daily routines. Yeah. Because like, Brian, I think you're like, I've been there and I've seen that where you're just so caught in what's going on and there's problems and things you're just trying to get through that you never get above it. Like you're just like, what can I do right now to help my financial situation? And sometimes it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different result. And that's why we go through life just feeling like we're going insane. Right?
Yep.
It's like our golf game. You know what I mean? Like we got to stand. Sometimes like, hey, bro, can you stand behind me? Right. Let me know what's going on here. Because we don't know that like we're just moving our whole body and pulling up and it's slicing the ball and that's why it's going right. We need to kind of take a purposeful pause.
Yep.
And we can do that in our own life by saying, let me just kind of slow down and say like, is this where I want it to be? Okay, it's not. Because I think most people would say, no, like I think we want more. Yep. We want to progress. We want to go to the next level. Okay, this is where I want to get to. All right, let me first, before I take that step, let me visualize that step. Let me make it sticky. Let me make it emotional.
Yeah.
And that way, if I can internalize that and I could see it and I could feel the emotions of doing that behavior and seeing the payoff, well, okay, now I can move forward.
Yeah. I think people are so impatient too. Like people don't want to spend time because like that example with the Olympic team, like that took time.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have to do that. They could have just practiced their craft and did whatever, but they spent extra time going above and beyond to prep mentally for the physical challenge ahead. And really that's what vision is about too. It's like, it's a mental exercise. It's a mental process. You gotta go, hey, what does life look like? And maybe that's you right now, and you're sitting there going, man, I just don't have the time to think that far ahead because I'm dealing in the present moment. Well, you got to carve out some time. Like, I think we did a podcast already about like being intentional with our time and time stacking. Like, you gotta be intentional with your time, because if you don't sit in your thoughts and wrestle with them and then paint a picture of your life in the future and what you're going after, you're just going to continue to live the same life you've been living year after year after year, expecting a different result. So take some time, write the vision down, make it clear. I think that's a scripture too, Habakkuk 2:2. Like, write it down, make it clear, make it vivid. The second point, the second way to really help you put together a vision is your vision has to be vast. It's got to be big.
Yeah.
It's got to be bigger than what you could just accomplish today or tomorrow. Like, it has to be something that if you shared it with everyone, half the people would call you crazy, right? Like, like me and you talk a lot, and I got some big vision right now that I'm not sharing with everyone, but because you'd call me crazy. You'd be like, dude, there ain't no way. That's not you, right? Maybe someone else, maybe someone who's maybe further ahead, but not you. But like, man, I don't want to live a life that's limited to my own ability or my own, my resource. I want to have a vision for my future that requires, more of God, less of me. And so whatever your vision is, man, if you've seen it, like, if you can do it easily, it's probably not from God, and it's probably not big enough. Like, you got to have a big vision, a vast vision, a vision that makes you feel a little uncomfortable, right? It reminds me of a story in the Bible that God calls Abram at the time, and he says, hey, listen, go outside, right? Look up at the stars. And he says, I want you to count them. Begin to count the stars, which is impossible to do, right? Maybe not here in the high desert, because we don't really see them because of the smog. But in other areas of the world, like there's so many stars you can't even count them. He says, look up, count all these stars. It's impossible to do. Is this point he's making. He's like, this is how many descendants you're going to have. This is the future I have for you. This is the vision I have for your life. You're going to have so many descendants, so many offspring, so many people that come after you. You're going to be the father of many nations. That's the vision I have. And Abraham's like, this is crazy, right? But it all came to pass. See, I believe that's the life that God wants us to live too. Like, what does that life look like? Is your vision vast where it scares you? Is your vision vast where it's bigger than you, where it requires, more than just your natural ability? I know God's given me a vision like that. I know the same is true for you, right? So, like, I don't know. I just think people need to dream bigger again. People are scared to dream.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's scary because you can think like, man, if I have this big dream, then I might have a big letdown.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, that's the great lie. I mean, I think at the end of the day, without a big dream and a big vision, there's really nothing that you're going to go after in your life that was really designed for God specifically for you to go after, right? And so I think that, having that big, vast vision, it allows you to have space for God to work.
That's good.
Because like I know that for me, I'm only going to go so far, and my potential is so much below what God's potential is for me. It's kind of like I was coaching the girls in soccer this past weekend, and dude, they were dying out. Like, this team was really good, and I said, I was trying to give them some encouragement at halftime, because I believe that the great teams, they make the adjustments at halftime to win the game. And I told them, I said, listen, I know you're tired. I know you're running back and forth because now they're going 11v11. Dude, this feels big, bro, and the boys will be there next year.
Yeah.
It's a different level of play. And so I said, just know that when you feel like you've given it your all, like when you're about to just go out, you've only given like 30%.
Right.
There's 70% in you. And they're looking at me like, really? I'm like, just push through it, And I think it's the same thing. When we feel like, man, this vision is this is bigger than, or this is something that's big for me to accomplish. Well, it's probably still not big enough, right? Now, you don't want to cast something that's like so astronomical that, it's just, it ain't going to happen. But what we're saying is like, start to think bigger and see yourself bigger, meaning that if your marriage is not where it needs to be and you're like, man, it's like not going in the right direction, we're filing divorce papers or whatever that might be, like, you can have a vision where you guys like respect each other, love each other, look forward to walking the door. Like, that's not too big of a vision. Like, that's God's vision for your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Now, maybe for you, you're like, how can I just like get on the other side of this and just have a decent conversation?
Right.
But just sitting in time and letting God kind of give some pictures in your mind, because I think for a lot of people, you've had a glimpse like you've had a glimpse of where your life could be going in different areas. And I've had different times where I'm like, man, it's a struggle. I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall. Like I got this vision, but it's not going nowhere. But then I want to go back and hold on to those glimpses that God's given me, where those little things that are kind of sparked where I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I can see this through.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like maybe it's like a vision for a massive business. You're like, man, I don't know. But then you start looking at glimpse. Like I remember when I had that one interaction and it went well and that took place good. That was a glimpse into what you could create and what you could build. Now, the enemy wants that to be stolen before it actually takes some roots. But man, spend some time thinking about that. Let that develop some roots and create some God room, some God space. God space is above what you think you can do. That's where God can go to work. And I think that's where the vast vision is going to come from.
Really good. I mean, most dreams die in practicality, right? But it's like, don't kill my dream. Don't kill my vision because of your practicality. Like, let me dream. Let me have a big vision for my life. It's like when you're a kid, like you ask, maybe you have young kids, asking them what they want to be when they get older. Like they're going to tell you something that seems unrealistic, right? I remember, I think it was Blaze when he was little. I was asking him, what do you want to be? He's like, I want to be a fire truck. I was like, oh, you want to be a fireman? He's like, no, a fire truck. I'm like, you a firefighter, right? Like, no, I want to be a fire truck. I'm like, have at it, son, right? But it's like, I'm not going to kill his dream in my practicality. It's like, maybe you got to get back to that childlike faith and go, man, I want to be, or I want to have, or I want to live, or I want my marriage or my finances to look this way. And don't let your dream die in your own practicality. Like maybe God's having you listen to this podcast today to tell you to dream again. Like have a vision again. Maybe you were fired up about life at one point and it kind of died in practicality. Well, this is your call. Have a vision again. There's a story in the Bible about a man named Joseph, right? And he had a big dream, but his brothers tried to kill that dream in their practicality, right? So don't let your dream die in practicality. And if it's a God dream, if it's something that God's clearly laid out in your heart and you've spent time and you've processed it and you've made it clear and you have that sense from him, man, it's going to come to pass. Mm-hmm. It's going to come to pass. But here's a big but. You got to have the third part of how to make a vision clear, which is you got to
make it a verb.
Action. Make it a verb. You got to have action behind your vision.
Yeah, I gotta say one point, man.
Go for it.
My kids, when I ask them, because I know that, like I've heard that before, like your kids will think big dreams.
Yeah.
I ask my girls, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And every one of them, like at 4 or 5, they're like, I want to work at Target. Yeah. So, I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Dreaming big,
or
baby.
it's exposure therapy. They've been exposed to Target so much, like their vision's like, that's me, because they've been at the checkout stand way too many times with my wife. But action.
Well, at least it's Target, bro. It could be worse.
Yeah, it could be worse. But so yeah, you got to take action. It's got to be actionable, right? So it's like, okay, I've got this big vision. I know there's all these cliches and stuff you've heard where it's like wishful thinking and what have you, and that's really where somebody just sits there and you start thinking about how good it could be, right? But maybe you don't even visualize yourself taking those actual steps. I think the first part of taking action is seeing the action. See, I think a lot of times when we could visualize like the outcome, right? Like, oh, this is going to be so great. I visualize a successful business, all this money coming in my account, being fit. But it's like, I think you got to visualize the behavior done with excellence and the commitment and discipline to the behavior, and then the commitment to the behavior even amidst the distractions that'll come that day to try to pull you off of the vision and taking action within it.
Yeah.
And so I think that, for me, like every morning, the way I kind of make it actionable is I'll sit and I'll write down the 3 most important things that need to be done that day. Those are tied to my big picture vision, right? And so that could be anything. If you're starting a business, like, okay, what's the most important thing that you could do today that's going to impact tomorrow relating to that vision coming to pass?
Right.
If it's your marriage, like, man, I really just see my marriage going better, with this better intimacy. We've got better communication, conversations, or a better example to kid, or whatever it is. Okay, let me visualize and write down the 3 things I need to do, and let me first see it in my mind, and then me accomplishing those behaviors. And then how does that make me feel when I accomplish that behavior? Now, how does it make me feel when that result comes? Because the result's going to be way down the road,
right?
If it's a big, vast vision. You know what I mean? Like if you're like, man, I just really want to get back in shape, and many people could probably relate to that,
Right.
where they've had those seasons where like I want to get back into shape. You don't go do one workout and all of a sudden the six pack shows up. It doesn't work that way.
Preach.
It's a process. But if you can say, I'm gonna be excited, my payoff, like my good feeling of doing a good job, is gonna come from me accomplishing that one workout,
Right.
right? And I can visualize that and I can feel good about it. Well, I think that's where you're going to really kind of destroy disappointment and discouragement that will come in like a thief and steal your vision. Because I think when you've got this great vision, you've got hope that it's going to come to pass. Well, the time that goes that fills in that space, right? The amount of time it takes where you start seeing progress, I believe that that's where disappointment and discouragement is bred. And if you live in discouragement and disappointment so much, you're not going to be driven and want to jump out of bed just to be disappointed again.
Right.
And so can I visualize my behavior done with excellence? And now that you've got it, written down, then go after it. And I think that at the end of the night, this would be the last point I'd make to it, is like kind of doing an inventory, almost like an interrogation of reality. Are you always going to do the thing that made your vision a verb? No. Absolutely not. Like I have many days, man, where I get to the end of the day and I'm like, dude, how did I miss that? Like, how did I get stuck doing all that fray and this like what is that old the word the minutia, right? Like how did I get stuck doing that stuff? But it happens. But that's where you just gotta stop and say, okay, all right, how can I remove those distractions? How can I separate those from me? And then how can I get back after tomorrow and make sure that I accomplish that? And I think that's a big deal. I think that it's, if we don't do that inventory late at night as well, that it's easy to get stuck back in. And what we do now is we cast like almost like fog, like you said, like the smog where you can't see the stars. Well, you can't see your vision because of all the minutia, the fray, and just getting stuck in doing busy work.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, my roadmap of my destination to get there, man, it's hard to see it because it's all cloudy. Well, I think at night you can start to like remove the clouds and say, okay, this happened, but now what did it teach me? What could I take from it? And let me get back on track tomorrow. Really, I think that's a good, the way that I always try to make it kind of actionable.
Right. Well, the vision's going to come to pass through small daily decisions done over time.
Yeah.
Right. And what's the saying? Like you underestimate what you can do in a year and you overestimate what you can do in like 5 years. Like most people underestimate the value of just small daily good decisions, like taking those small action steps. But if you got that vision in front of you, don't forget the motivation behind it. Like the vision is the destination, but like you need daily motivation to get there. So make sure you're taking action steps every day towards that vision. And the last really point of how to make your vision, I guess, clear, or really the significance of it, is it's got to be valid. Like there has to be, there's that childlike faith, but there's also like adult-like maturity, right? Like you got to, and so your vision of your life has to be, for us, has to come from God. There has to be some purpose behind it. It can't be just because we want nice things just for the sake of having nice things, or we want this house for the sake of having it. No, we want it for a specific reason, because if it's just all material, it's empty. You get there and there's no significance in it. You get to that vision, you get to that destination, and then you realize that was all worth nothing because I still feel empty. I still feel void. I still feel like I didn't help anyone along the way. So your vision has to be valid. Like, why am I doing this? Is it for selfish reasons, or is it because I'm trying to make a difference? Is it for just my family, or am I trying to make a difference in my community and affect those around me? And so whatever vision you have, like I don't want a healthy marriage just for the sake of having a healthy marriage. Of course, that's good for me and Mariah, but I also want a healthy marriage so my kids can see a healthy marriage. So their kids can see a healthy marriage. And now we have a generation after generation of healthy marriages, right? I don't want to just make a lot of money just so I can buy stuff. Is stuff cool? Absolutely. But stuff is also like, doesn't bring anything with it other than what it is. And over time, stuff rusts, stuff breaks. And then you realize, man, I did all that for this car. And it's like, well, that shiny new car isn't shiny after a couple months, right? And so it's got to be bigger than you. It's got to be valid, right? What do you think about that? Because I know, dude, for you, you've had a lot of stuff. Like I've seen you, buy houses and buy cars, and sold the business for crazy amount of money. Like you've had a lot of stuff, and I've heard you speak to this before, at some point it still feels empty. Like if you're not doing it for a purpose, you don't have a bigger why. If it's not like making an impact. Like, speak to that.
I think the reality is that when you get more of those things that you think, once I check these boxes, then I'm gonna have fulfillment, then I'm gonna have purpose, and I'll have happiness. I'll catch that feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, what you realize is that, man, that feeling is so much more real that it's never gonna come from those things.
Yeah.
You know, you become so much more apparent and aware that, hey, this is never going to fulfill. In fact, I would say that void actually becomes deeper and bigger, because it's like, it'd be like a great letdown. Like, it's almost like, once I get this, then I'll feel this. And then when you get it, you don't. And it's like, and I think that, Brand, what you said was spot on, man. Like, everything that you're going after, it needs to be tied to a purpose. You know, like, I'll give you an example. Like, so for instance, when we were looking at like getting the new house, and we wanted it to be bigger, and I had a vision for a movie theater room, a vision for like kind of like a park in the backyard and stuff like that. Like, my vision really was, I want to create an environment where my kids will want to invite their friends over, and I could speak life into them, that they could see a healthy family, that they could see a healthy relationship with my wife. Like, they would be able to say, wow, this is a great picture. Not that we're perfect, man, we're disasters. You know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of different things that we mess up and fall short. But my goal in my mind that got me excited and motivated was that
it was bigger than just the thing.
If it was, I mean, know what I know about just things, and having some what people would call worldly successes, and knowing what that feels like when you got it. Like, dude, to me, I wouldn't care. Like, whatever. Right. It didn't make no difference. Like, you know, I wear the same black and white shirt I don't care. It just doesn't do anything. And I know it doesn't. But you can want those things, but if you start tying it to a purpose, in a vision, man, it just now it makes it valid. Now it's like, okay, why do I really want this? And that's a great question. I think the questions we ask ourselves are the questions that produce the thoughts, and those thoughts drive ourselves. And so if I can stop and say, why do I really want this? Like, is this really my vision? Like, what's the difference does it make? What impact does it have? Because the Bible's pretty clear on like what we're called to do.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're not a person of faith, like, I mean, I think you'd probably agree that we're called to go make an impact and make a difference and love our neighbor and be a meaningful specific in other people's lives. And that could show up in many different ways. But I think that in order to make your vision valid, it's got to have some kind of component of that. If it doesn't involve making an impact, being a meaningful specific to somebody else, inspiring, encouraging, or even giving hope for somebody.
Yeah.
Like, even our failures, my setbacks, like all the stuff that I've gone through in my life. I mean, the way I was raised, my relationship with my wife in the beginning, all these different things that I learned through failure, like, that purpose of that is to give hope to others.
Amen.
And like I said, vision is really just a picture of hope. And so, like, that's where God will even use those things. So if somebody's on here thinking like, man, like, where I'm at right now, you don't understand, Paul. Like, I've made some bad choices. I'm not nearly where I want to be. Like, I'm at my age right now. I wish I was further in here. I was further here. I was further here. Let me just encourage you that, man, like, you've got the ability to create a new tomorrow based off what you do today. And none of that stuff makes any kind of difference. In fact, it could be used for your benefit. All those things that you feel like there's regret, God will take that regret, paint a picture of hope, and you could give it to somebody else. And some of my most impactful conversations I've had with coaching people is me just saying like, hey, let me tell you a story. And I tell them about how I dealt with the same thing. They're like, you? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, really? And I could just see
it's really good.
The hope just fill them up, because a lot of times the enemy will get us to isolate ourselves to think that, oh, it's just me. And then, you talk to them and you're like, no, man, like, I had this struggle. I had these thoughts. And like, you pastor?
Right.
Yeah, I'm a pastor, but I'm a human being as well. Like, and so I just think that it's got to be tied to that. And I think that it all could be used to create a great vision. And, the validity is going to come from that stuff.
It's really good. Really good. Hope this helps, man. Your vision has to be vast, right? It has to be valid. It has to have action behind it. It has to have a verb, and it has to be vivid. It has to be clear. And so,
hey, I got a question for you. What do you think about vision boards?
What I think about vision boards?
Yeah. What's your thought on it? Because I know there's
yeah different
kind of speculation on it.
So I think they're great. right? I I've I don't want to say I've never had a vision board, because when I was a teenager I probably did, right? You cut out the magazines. Um, Probably had a Lamborghini on there, probably had, a house or whatever. I think for me now, being where I'm at, it's more about just like writing it down and keeping the vision in front of me. So like I journal, I have notes, I have stuff on my computer. So I wouldn't necessarily have like a vision board like in my room where it's magazine cutouts and glue, right?
But maybe good for a kid, or like
100%.
I guess it could be good for
It could be good for anyone.
anybody. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm just saying for me where I'm at, like I write stuff down in a journal. It's the same
Right.
concept, right? It's the point of a vision board is just to keep it in front of you.
Yeah, so you can see it.
To not like, hey, have a good thought or have a good vision and there's no action behind it because it's not top of mind. So yeah, if you want to make a vision board, go for it.